Lutsk, Kiev, Lviv, Chernivtsi, Kharkiv, and also Ternopil region, Rivne region, Cherkasy region, Vinnytsia region, Poltava region, Sumy region, and Odessa region. Almost all of Ukraine was under attack this week. And once again, peaceful homes, kindergartens, hospitals, dormitories, and editorial offices were targeted. Over 700 aerial targets were flying toward Ukraine at the same time on one of the nights. Far from all of them could be shot down. And right after the meeting of the Coalition of the Willing in Rome, Putin struck the city that for a long time had been a kind of safe haven, Chernivtsi. 2 people were killed and 26 were wounded. Today is a day of mourning in the capital of Bukovina. We still sympathize with everyone who lost their loved ones this week, but it seems that even Trump was affected by the Kremlin. Most importantly, the supply of American weapons to us has been restored, and this was confirmed by President Zelensky. For the first time, a representative of the United States, Keith Kellogg, joined the coalition of the Resolute talks. And there have been unofficial reports that the U.S. will send weapons to Ukraine for the first time by decision of Trump himself, not Biden. This is according to a Reuters report. The head of the White House himself, after the massive shelling of peaceful Ukrainian cities, promised an important statement regarding Russia on Monday. It is possible that this will concern new sanctions against Russian oil and uranium, since Republicans in Congress have already stated that they are ready to impose restrictions as early as July, before their recess. The Russians have already started scrambling, and Lavrov immediately passed on some supposedly new Russian proposals for ending the war to Marco Rubio. Which way will the pendulum swing? We'll see on Monday. Keith Kellogg will come to Ukraine for a whole week. And what message will this special representative bring? That's the main intrigue right now. But most importantly, we're not standing on just one leg. Besides the changes in Washington, the European Union and the Coalition of the Willing are starting to sharply ramp up their resistance to Russian aggression. And that's what we're talking about today, among other things. This is TSN Week. The more you know, the better armed you are. Greetings to everyone watching us on our YouTube channel as well. And coming up in the broadcast, a battle of a new era. How Ukrainian robots managed to capture enemy positions and take prisoners without any live assault troops involved.
Attention, stand by the cable.
And why, alongside high-tech drones, we fight back against the aggressor with cannons from World War II.
The gun there.
Moscow without the right of the strong.
Putin is constantly telling us a bunch of nonsense.
Will Trump dare to impose sanctions on a gas station country? What does he want to announce tomorrow?
The Kremlin Kashai's needle has clearly been found.
And is Russia really preparing for another war in the Caucasus? From the front, we have a rare but pleasant report for these times. The armed forces of Ukraine have recaptured part of the territory near Pokrovsk in the Donetsk region. According to the Institute for the Study of War, the Ukrainian armed forces have advanced south of Yudakny. And now there is news coming in about our advance in the north of Sumy region, Kindertivka. Although fierce fighting continues, and the Russians keep attacking in several directions at once. Chernihiv, Sumy, Kharkiv region, artillery, drones, guided bombs, interceptions, enemy drones that we are using against the enemy. Our war correspondent Andriy Tsaplienko took a closer look at what they don't show at military parades, using as an example one unit of the Green Berets who are stretched along the entire northern border. Here is his report now. And we also want to help the Groza battalion of the Burovy Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine. Its fighters are now on the fierce Kupiansk front, on the other side of the Oskol River, where they have been holding the defense in a semi-encirclement for a year. And to repel the enemy, they absolutely need components for FPV drones. Our 10, 20, or 100 hryvnias for this QR code are helping our soldiers fight back and sometimes even survive. Thank you to everyone who joins.
A gun.
Ukrainian soldiers say that things have gotten a bit calmer this week in the Sumy direction, but that doesn't mean the Russians have stopped assaulting Ukrainian positions. And now, the artillerymen from the border guard are trying to stop one of these assaults. The border detachment Steel Border has all the elements of a full-fledged brigade. Units of the 15th Detachment are deployed practically along the entire front. But the north, and especially the Sumy region, are the priority.
Now things have gotten a bit easier. We stopped the enemy's advance.
Steel Border is holding strong. If you look at the deep state map, that little bump, it's exactly the area where the border guards of Steel Border are defending our country today. And they really are a steel border on this section.
And the enemy is stopped here by museum weapons.
To the battle.
VS-3 gun from the year 1944. These usually stand as monuments.
What are its advantages?
Long range.
Is the barrel rifled?
Yes.
This provides long range.
Yes, yes.
With their old cannons, the border guards took out an enemy self-propelled gun and enemy fortifications several kilometers from the front line with sniper-like precision. The enemy is searching for these gunners with drones.
What we're currently hearing could potentially be something significant in the sky. Perhaps some kind of unmanned aerial vehicle or a Gerbera, right? Or a Shahid drone.
Got it. It's down.
Here's a Gerbera drone that was just shot down, a cheap version of the Shahid. It's unusual because Gerberas are usually white, but this one is black, so it's harder to spot at dusk. But these sharp-eyed guys took it down with an unusual weapon too, which they seem to have borrowed from the same museum as the cannon.
It's from 49.
What is it?
It's a ZPU-4.
Is it effective?
Well, you can judge by the shoot-downs.
How many Shahids have you shot down?
Well, up to 15 Shahids.
And this Russian reconnaissance drone was guiding air bombs to Ukrainian positions in real time.
This is a super cam, which they manufacture, and our guys shot it down. Actually, it was probably brought down by electronic warfare, since it's intact.
In the Steel Border Lab, they'll try to get it flying again.
We'll try to restore it.
Are you planning to use it, maybe, as a reconnaissance drone against the Russians?
Well, yeah, of course. We'd like that.
More than half of the enemy's losses aren't from artillery, but from drone strikes. So the top priority target that the supercams are hunting is the operators of Ukrainian unmanned systems.
Right now, we've become priority number 1. And they're constantly looking for us, sparing no expense, even using a large number of glide bombs.
And for now, there's no way to defend against glide bombs.
Attention, glide bomb launch.
Oh, let's turn around and speed up.
This is how brutally and mercilessly Russian air bombs destroyed one of the drone command posts of the Steel Border. It seemed impossible to survive in such hell.
Enemies were still here.
But the guys survived, by a miracle.
Armageddon. A complete crater. Everyone started shouting, "Who's alive?" Or, is everyone okay? One of our comrades managed to get out and brought a group of our brothers and aunts, who started digging us out.
And this is the Chernihiv border area. Here, it seems a bit calmer. However, the fiber optic cable just left behind by a Russian FPV drone is a reminder. This calm is only an illusion.
Drones, like they're on an open hunt, are sent out and look for some target moving along the road, and then strike.
What should we do?
It's better. Against fiber optic cables, there's nothing better than a 12 gauge.
FPV drone. So we shot at it, and you can see here that it hit the blades and the body itself.
So, you have a Ukrainian spool, and this one is Russian. Right?
The Russian spool, I think, is also for 15 kilometers.
The Askold unit of the Steel Border Detachment responds in kind. This is how their drones, using fiber optics, enter enemy territory and strike the Muscovites' electronic weaponry.
We haven't been on this section for long, but we've already carried out strikes using fiber optics and, with our analog FPV drones, and we've also done mining with the Vampire, as well as hitting enemy depots with the Vampire. So here we've already struck the enemy's ammunition depot, and we've also hit light vehicles.
Drones have changed the battlefield, but there are tasks where a rifle is better suited than a drone.
There's a very small niche left for snipers.
Does that niche still exist?
Yes.
And what is that niche?
Well, that's urban combat.
In Sumy region, Steel Border is on the defensive, trying not to let things escalate to urban combat. The Russians are turning villages into ruins. FPV drones with optics are chasing after civilian vehicles moving along rural roads. So, in the forests, they're actively building galleries of underground fortifications. It's like a lone, passageway.
Yes, yes.
And these passageways are supposed to connect, as I understand it, all the shelters here.
Yes, all of them completely, so that it's barely visible that we're moving on the surface, on the terrain.
Before the underground construction started in the forest, this four-legged sapper, Yola, did her job here.
Right at this location, we found about 20 120 millimeters mines and 44 82 millimeters mines.
Steel Border is doing what civilian builders failed to accomplish during half a year of the Kursk operation. When you pulled back, did you occupy the fortifications built by civilians?
No, because all those defensive lines they built out there, outside the city, in front of the city, well, they're just in open fields. I think no conscious serviceman would ever take up defense there. Why? Because there's no cover from aviation, from artillery, from drones. I wouldn't send my people there.
In dense forests, it's possible to bring the medical station as close to the front line as possible.
We are the first ones positioned as close to the front line.
That's why medics can make use of the golden hour and give the wounded a chance to survive.
A serviceman, a wounded man who was brought in a state of clinical death is now alive and in a clinical hospital in Kiev.
This stabilization point with 3 operating beds was also built by the military themselves, not by civilians. Here, under the trees, you could have dug out entire fortified areas in advance if the work of civilian builders had been accepted by those who are now fighting in these forests. The forests here stretch almost to the border, so it's possible to hide these small American cannons very well. That's exactly why they remain effective in the Sumy region. Here's another historical rarity from the border guards, the M101 cannon. These cannons remember the Korean War and even World War II, but they've proven to be relevant even in the era of all-seeing drones.
When you were with our BS-3 wheels, it had a huge amount of gas and fire when firing, really huge. That's not the case here. At night, you can fire, and there's no chance you'll be spotted. It's quiet, like a whip.
That's probably why this former music teacher, now a gunner who used to fight with the BS-3, swapped the Soviet relic for an American one, keeping a stylish tattoo as a memento of the old cannon.
We can play a tune on this one too, if needed.
The call sign partisan is a local from Sumy, driving the Russians away from his own home with a howitzer. And here's another surprise somewhere nearby. His students are fighting too.
I'm especially pleased that some of my students, about 3 or 4 as far as I remember, are now serving in the armed forces.
Your students joined the armed forces?
Yes, yes, yes.
We can only hope that bullets, shrapnel, and drones pass by the music teacher and his students, because it's thanks to such sincere and caring people that there's a chance to defend our home. Andrei Tsaplienko, Alexander Shayen, Ivan Shevtsov, Serhiy Parfilov, TSN Week, 1+1, Marathon, United News.
And you can't even imagine what the secret to our victory might be. It's literally in the hands of our farmers. Cotton, which we so love to see in Russia, is now growing in Ukraine too. But what's the connection between this exotic for Ukraine plant and a cannon shot? And why does it drive the Muscovites so mad? Our Oksana Radio Nova will tell you in just a few minutes. And now, let's talk about a complete 180-degree turn. The President of the United States surprised everyone twice this week. Not only did he unfreeze the supply of anti-missile systems for the Patriots and other arsenals in Ukraine that had been blocked in Poland. For the first time during this term, Donald Trump may provide us with his presidential military aid package worth $300 million. So far, this has only been reported by the Western press, citing informed sources. There are no official statements at this time. However, the American leader has promised some stunning decisions as early as Monday. So, is the friendship with Putin over? Or is this just a new game of nerves? TSN Week correspondent Irina Prokofyeva reports on events that directly determine our survival.
Expensive and advanced missiles for the Patriot air defense systems, along with 155mm caliber artillery shells and powerful salvos for the HIMARS rocket launchers are already on their way to Ukraine, providing crucial support. A week of nervous anticipation, political scandals, and finger-pointing over who blocked military aid ended with a brief statement on the Pentagon's website. Quote, by order of President Trump, the Department of Defense is sending additional defensive weapons to Ukraine so that Ukraine can defend itself while we work on establishing lasting peace and ending the killings. The Ministry of Defense was made the scapegoat for halting the flow of weapons. And Donald Trump announces a new strategy. The United States will now sell its weapons to allies, and those allies will then transfer them to Ukraine.
I know they've made a request. We'll consider it. It's an expensive, very expensive system.
The usually cautiously optimistic international affairs expert Alexander Kara can't hide his disappointment. He explains, what Trump is proposing will help us survive, but it won't change the course of the war.
Doesn't it seem to you like that joke about the goat? President Zelensky has repeatedly appealed, saying, let us buy, and let Europeans buy this weaponry for us. Now it seems that they have finally made such a decision.
Europe is reacting quickly to the decision made in Washington. The thick, acrid smoke over Kiev after the Russian shelling is giving Germany and Norway extra motivation to help close the Ukrainian skies. President Zelensky assures there will be others as well.
My urgent request concerns 10 advanced Patriot missile defense systems and the corresponding substantial number of interceptor missiles specifically designed for these crucial systems. Germany is ready to pay for 2 systems. Norway is ready to pay for 1 system. Other European partners will join as well.
This statement is being made in Rome at the Conference on Ukraine's Recovery, which this year has become the main investment platform for our country. A large gathering of leaders from 13 governments, 5 presidents, and dozens of ministers, most of whom have personally visited Kiev. Images of Ukraine's burning capital are both striking and unifying.
For the first time at these conferences, everything is about defense and the defense industry.
The meeting in Rome took place at a pivotal moment for Trump regarding Russia. The New York Times comes out with the headline, "Putin screwed up." And in the article itself, there's an explanation of what exactly ended the warm friendship between the White House host and the Kremlin. After numerous acts of coercing Kiev into making concessions, diplomatic blackmail, halting arms supplies, threats to pull out of negotiations, endless calls to Moscow, Trump finally realized that Putin had turned all of this into his personal defeat. And that's the one thing Donald Trump cannot tolerate.
To be honest, Putin is always telling us a bunch of nonsense.
The Financial Times notes, the Kremlin irritated Trump so much that he announced an important statement on Russia for Monday, without giving any details. However, experts suggest that this refers to the Graham-Blumenthal bill on secondary sanctions for buyers of Russian oil. It is already in the U.S. Congress, and supposedly Trump is even ready to sign it. However, there is one condition. The American leader can lift or impose these restrictions against Moscow at any time without approval from lawmakers. Whether Donald Trump will play this trump card, we'll find out as soon as tomorrow. But another political sensation also points to a shift away from Moscow toward Kiev. For the first time, the United States of America has joined the meeting of the coalition of willing countries. Special Envoy Keith Kellogg literally read from a piece of paper, Ukraine must make its own decisions, and the U.S. will not rush to withdraw from the negotiations. Will the U.S. administration change its rhetoric as soon as tomorrow? That question remains open. Anything can be expected here. Moreover, on the other side of the planet, Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov during the summit in Malaysia these days. Putin's loyal subordinate is passing on new proposals for a peace agreement to Trump.
To me, this is a new, different approach. But again, I wouldn't call it a guarantee of peace. However, this is a concept that I will present to the president today.
Alexander Kara claims that the Kremlin also sees that Washington is already fed up with Russia's peace plans. But this is the only thing that, at least publicly, can keep Trump from imposing sanctions.
Putin hopes that at least until autumn he can seize more territory. Plus, he thinks that from these positions, he can then negotiate with both the Europeans and the Americans.
As confirmation of these words, there's the telling visit of a smiling Lavrov to Kim Jong-un and the high praise for North Korean soldiers in the war in Ukraine, which basically means it needs to be repeated because Russia is gathering troops for another operation. This week, Ukrainian intelligence reported that Moscow has ordered an increase in its military presence in Armenia, which has been unruly lately. The Russian base in Gyumri, located on the border with Azerbaijan, is being reinforced with personnel and equipment amid escalating tensions with Baku. Aliyev is not only pulling his country out of Russia's sphere of influence, but is also dragging neighboring Armenia along with him. This week in Abu Dhabi, without any Russian intermediaries, who for 27 years pretended to be peacekeepers in Nagorno-Karabakh, Ilham Aliyev and Nikol Pashinyan began preparing a peace agreement. Without any regard for Moscow, and therefore without considering its interests.
It is very important that Armenia and Azerbaijan finally resolve the issue of opening the Zangezur project. And then, logistics routes, including those from Asia and China, will be integrated into supply projects to Europe and other parts of the world without Russia's involvement.
To understand what the Zangezur corridor is, you just need to look at a map of the region. Moscow has acted as a peacekeeper not only in the Karabakh conflict, Armenia literally cuts through the territory of Azerbaijan, separating the Nakhchivan region from it, a situation that also came about with Russia's involvement. A truncated Azerbaijan locked in perpetual conflict meant that Moscow had complete control over its oil competitor.
All flows related to energy resources and the north-south, east-west logistics routes pass through Azerbaijan, and undoubtedly, for Europe, it is a stable partner for the neutral supply of gas and other energy resources.
Peace in the region is a direct threat to the income of the gas station country. That's why Putin is forced to amass troops at his Caucasus base. For now, he has declared war on Azerbaijani fruit. But does Russia even have the strength for a real war in the Caucasus, even with cannon fodder from North Korea?
I can say one thing. I've come up with a new term: Russians are military impotents.
Even the pro-Russian Prime Minister Robert Fico, who went to Moscow to bow to Putin and this week blocked the devastating 18th package of sanctions against Russia, set a condition. He is ready to give his approval if he can get off Russia's gas hook without consequences for himself. Gas from Azerbaijan could be an excellent alternative, and the Ukrainian gas transmission system, despite the suspension of transit, still remains reliable. Perhaps that's exactly what Energy Minister Herman Halashchenko went to Baku to discuss right now. Well, it seems the Kremlin's Kashiai needle has clearly been found. Irina Prokofieva, Oksana Rodionova, Ilya Shinkarenko, and Valentin Shelko. TSN Week, 1+1, Marathon, United News.
And right now, let's listen to the Russians, who are finally experiencing for themselves what the war they started really means. Thousands of detained and canceled flights, tens of thousands of passengers spending the night in airports. A massive aviation collapse has hit Russia, all because of a few small drones buzzing over the airports. It seems the Ukrainian Defense Forces have found yet another sore spot for the Russians. Not particularly powerful drones can't completely destroy enemy military factories or airfields, but they can bring an entire industry to a halt. So, what new discoveries did the residents of the Terra state make for themselves this week? Alexander Zahorodny will tell us. People, we have a third child. Look, the whole roof is collapsing.
The storm really hit Russia this week. In 11 regions, factories and power plants exploded, airports were closed, and warehouses burned.
They can't put it out, can they?
Penza, the local CHP plant, is on fire. There are a good dozen military enterprises located here.
It's still flying. It's still flying. Why aren't they shooting it down? Step away from the window, please.
Among the targets are the Tula cartridge and arms factories. Besides the usual rifles and ammunition, they also produce guided missiles there.
There are a lot of them flying. Really a lot. So many are flying toward the city.
Drones are also attacking the Shipyonov Instrument Design Bureau, which specializes in the production of anti-aircraft missile and gun systems.
Quiet. It's coming alive. That's a drone.
Orenburg region, the city of Orsk. The mechanical plant is on fire. They produce shell casings and components for multiple launch rocket systems there.
Oh wow! Their workshops are burning. The workshop caught fire. That's it. It's done for.
This week, good drones also flew en masse to the Moscow region, targeting the Lupitsky aviation plant. And this is almost a sacred cow of the Russian military-industrial complex. Here, they assemble and repair MiG-29 and MiG-31 fighter jets. They have their own airfield, their own pilot unit, and unique machinery. This plant also upgrades Shahid drones.
They're firing with an automatic rifle.
This week, some good drones even made it all the way to Moscow.
Whoa.
Moscow Mayor Sabinin cheerfully reported that all the UAVs were shot down, but the small drones still managed to do their big job. Just last week, the largest airports in Russia, St. Petersburg's Pulkovo and all the Nukovo airports near Moscow, implemented the carpet plan. The airports weren't accepting or sending out any flights. This is how passengers at Russian airports entertained themselves at the start of the collapse. By the end of the second day, waiting for their flights, they weren't so cheerful anymore.
What a nightmare.
It's just awful. It's just insane. Everything's been canceled.
Eventually, they started getting nervous and began fighting each other.
Enough. Get out of here.
idiots, they're fighting.
Previously, Russians used to take risks and allowed passenger planes to land at airports even while their leaky air defense systems were operating. But after the Azerbaijani Airlines plane was effectively shot down over Grozny, they decided not to do that anymore. So now passengers are forced to wait. According to unverified information, a flight from Minsk came under fire from Moscow's air defense, but the pilots managed to land it.
Air defense is firing at us. I repeat, the air defense is firing at a civilian aircraft.
The losses of the Russian aviation industry for the week are still being calculated, but the damage can at least be estimated based on the first 2 days of the complete aviation collapse in Russia. It lasted from the 5th to the 7th of July, so about 2,000 flights were delayed, 485 were canceled, and around 100 planes were redirected to other airports. The airports of St. Petersburg, Moscow, and Nizhny Novgorod suffered huge losses, according to aviation expert Valery Romanenko.
That's about 15 to 16 billion rubles in losses for Russian airports over just 2 days.
15 billion rubles is $150 million, and that's just in 2 days. And on top of that, the airlines themselves have suffered losses, and those are in the millions too.
That includes navigation services, landing at the airport, renting parking space at the airport, refueling, disembarking passengers, boarding passengers, and other related services. So that's a loss for the airlines. Ticket prices are going up. As a result, this industry will be forced to ask for subsidies from the state budget, which means less money will go to the armed forces and military production.
But it's not just about the money. For the first time, the war, at least in this way, has actually reached the Russians. This isn't some so-called special military operation that's far away and doesn't concern most of them. Lying on the floor at the airport, they probably understand why they're there and not on a plane heading off on vacation. This week, the internet also went out in many regions of Russia. The authorities explain this as a measure to counter Ukrainian drones. But it also means millions in business losses and growing dissatisfaction among local residents. You can't buy tickets online, order delivery, or even just check the news.
These are the kinds of reminders you see at the terminals. The cash registers aren't working either.
The war has turned out to be much closer to every Russian. And this week, they finally learned about their losses at the front. No, not from Ukrainian media, but from one of their own, from the leader of the terrorist group Novorossiya, traitor and collaborator Pavlo Gubarev.
How many cities have we taken in these 3.5 years? It's ridiculous. 3.5 years. I claim, in my opinion, that there are over 1 million victims, killed, missing, maimed, those who died in hospitals.
And Russians have also learned that not only ordinary soldiers are dying at the front, but also generals and even so-called heroes of Russia. Just this week, the military, with a poster like this, essentially admitted that along with Putin's favorite, General Mikhail Gudkov, the hero of Russia, Colonel Sergei Lenin, was also killed. He was the commander of the 155th Marine Brigade, the very same unit whose servicemen killed civilians in Bucha and also executed prisoners of war. But it's not just generals. Even ministers are dying. Roman Starovoyt was part of the Russian ruling elite, headed the Kursk region, and eventually became the Minister of Transport. And this week, just like that, he shot himself in his expensive Tesla, or maybe near the Tesla in the bushes, or maybe he was shot, and before that, he was badly beaten.
Here, you can easily walk to the exact place where Starovoyt tragically died.
Where and how the minister died doesn't really matter that much anymore. Russians have realized, in the state Putin built, no one is protected anymore. Not generals, not governors, not ministers. And that's not even mentioning ordinary citizens. And they've also realized there's nowhere left to run. Roman Starovoyt had millions in access to all of Russia's transport, planes, trains, and steamships. But he only managed to make it as far as the bushes in Odintsovo. That's a town 22 kilometers from the center of Moscow. Russia is burning, for now in spots, but the fires no longer go out day or night. And explosions are heard around the clock. And there will definitely be more.
People, we actually have a bit of a problem here.
Alexander Zagrodny, TSN. Week 1+1 marathon, the only news.